Welcome back, everybody, to Awaken the Best You with Mr. Springer. And today we are talking about the power of you. I am your co-host, Anna Levin. And how are you, Misty?
I am doing wonderful. How are you, Anna?
I'm very, very excited because, like we were talking before, we are getting into the little nuggets that really, really help us change our lives. So I'm very excited to be having this conversation with you today.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that there's some little nuggets that come out. That is always the intention of these conversations, is to make sure that there's something of value, that women who are watching this find a little glimmer of hope and a little nugget that can help them.
Yes, absolutely. I think, I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel like this is such a relevant topic. I think a lot of us are becoming more and more aware to the power of us. Right. And what does it mean? And how do we actually, where do we begin? Because there's so much to unravel. And it's a shift in the way we think, in the way we look at things, the way we look at ourselves, our experiences. So where do we begin? That's the question.
And I'm so glad that you said that, because it really is. I talk with a lot of women who experience a tremendous amount of overwhelm with that very question. Where do I begin? There's so many things that I need to work on. There's so many things that I need to fix about myself. There's so many places that I feel overwhelmed in my life. And this topic that we're talking about today, the power of you, really takes away that overwhelm. It comes right back home to the real essence of who we are and what's important. And so I find that it can be very freeing, and it's very simple. And I hope that it offers a little bit of hope for those women that are out there feeling like I've tried everything, there's no hope. I'm just stuck in this overwhelm of needing to change, but not knowing how.
Right, absolutely. And some things are popping into my head as I hear you speak, because I, like yourself, believe that it's very simple. And in my experience, I have spent a lot of time creating an identity that I thought it was me, and part of it was me. So, I don't believe in black and white, but I think when we are in that space that we don't know how to touch our essence, and you talk about touching our essence, we don't even know how to begin and what does it look like, because we believe the identity that we created is really us, right? So how do we, let's talk about the juxtaposition of identity and essence. It's valuable.
Absolutely. And I think what I hear you saying is that question of, how do I find that essence? I call it the best version of me. How do I come from that place if I don't even know what that looks like or feels like? I love helping my clients go through a process of having what I call a felt experience. We know when we learn something, if we learn it up in our head, we know it for a time. We can regurgitate it on a test. But if we step into something, if we really truly feel what it feels like to know and experience our best self, that's when we start to really know it on a heart level, on a body level. We experience it. It's a felt experience. And that's the first place that I start with any program that I offer. It's a beautiful practice that I walk women through that help them to really step into that experience of feeling what it feels like to be the best version of themselves. And for many women, it's a powerful experience. In fact, I haven't had one client go through that experience without walking out the other end of it changed, because she feels for the first time that she has a glimpse of what being her best really feels like. And like you said, so many times we operate from this idea of who we've created and who we think we are, but oftentimes that vision of who we think we are is based on everything that we're afraid that we're not. All of our fears and, I'm not good enough. And so I have to do more in order to be more. I love that idea of really starting at our essence.
Yes. And I would assume also that, when people have held space for me like that and really coach me through this process, I think there's a beautiful thing that comes in the togetherness of you witnessing and allowing another human being to see themselves. I think that's one of the most loving things we can do for each other. And so I love people like yourself that hold that space, and intentionally, because it's not just, like sometimes as women, we get together and we have like pity parties, but that's not what it is. This is like intentional with the goal, right, of getting ahead and really tapping into a part of us that is perhaps a little forgotten, right? A little dull.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that really what it is. Many of the women walk out of that experience and they're in tears. I mean, they are touched on such a deep level. And what I love about that process is that they are experiencing their divine self, their divine essence. It's who they truly were meant to be. It's that woman inside that they catch a glimpse of every once in a while, and they want more of it. They just don't know how to find it. Right. And that's what my whole program is about. It's about tapping into that best version of themselves and making decisions from that place of purpose and that place of divinity, rather than from that place of let me follow a plan or check off the checklist that tell me that I am enough. I have to do more in order to be more. Yes. And that's not what it's about.
Right. Absolutely. And I would assume that I'm assuming a lot today, but because I have been through this. And so I lived in my head. And so I'm thinking about my own experience as I hear you speak. And I'm like, yes, this makes sense. This makes sense. So if we were to, since we're talking about the power of you today, if we were to break it down, what would be what's the first thing that I would do as your client? Like, I come to you and I have this desire to get to know myself. I'm scared because I don't really know how or what I'm going to find, if I'm going to like myself or not. When there's a lot of fears, right? So how does it start? How do you start breaking it down for the person?
Well, the first place that I begin, like I said, is helping them experience what it feels like to be the best version of themselves. And what I find is that women are in awe of themselves. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. The process that I take women through is it's a very beautiful, easy, guided experience, so that they feel comfortable watching and stepping into the best version of themselves. And what I love is that there's none of the fears and the voices that are there saying, you don't deserve this, you're not enough, you can't have this. It's just an open opportunity to get to know the best version of themselves. And then from there, what we can do is recognize, okay, what do you want? And that's when we can start to recognize the voices that are there that get in the way, that stop us from showing up as that best version of ourselves. But we have to have that picture of who we want to be, so that we can shine our light on her. Where we shine our light is what we see, and what we see is the direction we'll go. So if we're constantly shining the light on everything that we're not, all the fears that we have, all the ways that we're not showing up for ourselves, that's what stops us. It's when we can start to make decisions and come home to ourselves that we are able to really start making decisions that feel aligned and take aligned action, not action from a place of fear. Like checking off the checklists or choosing foods to eat because we want to lose weight. It's saying, I love myself enough to take care of myself, and when I eat this way, I feel aligned with my best self. It just comes from a very different place.
Yes, absolutely. I would imagine that is transformational on all levels of life, right? Not just, your relationship with ourselves is probably the most transformational
Mm-hmm.
of them all. So do you see, so you know, I bet you'd see like a pattern of, you know, commonality among people. And I would love to, for you to share with us some of the typical things that you find in us, in, you know, preventing us from actually seeing or tapping into the power of who we are.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I see are it's the negative self-talk, but it shows up in confusion and overwhelm. It shows up in this feeling of if I'm not perfect, then I'm failing, and it has to be hard. When women start to feel those experiences, that overwhelm, that confusion, I can't do it, I don't know how to do it, and that's when we know that there is a limiting belief that's running in the background. And that's when we can go deeper and understand what we need to shift in order for her to have a different experience. And that's when we start to shift back into, what does it feel like to make this decision from a place of your best self? If you were to show up as your best self in this situation, what would that look like and feel like? And just coming from a place of love instead of this feeling of I can't have it, or I'm not enough, or if I'm not perfect, then I don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot. And it's a process. It is, you know, and I think one of the things that I recognize mostly is that this is a journey, not a destination. So this is something that I am practicing, I'm helping my clients learn, and they are practicing. So this showed up for me just recently. I was putting together a conference, and whenever any of us start to move towards something, growth, change, moving towards our goals, stepping more into our purpose and what we're meant to be doing, we stop ourselves. And there's a lot of negative voices that come into our head, that all those old fears, old beliefs that pop up. And that was happening for me. I was putting together this conference. I was really excited about this conference, but there was a lot of noise going on in my head about, is this going to be impactful? Are women going to get anything out of this? Do I have enough? Am I enough to make this happen? And I came from this place of just absolute fear, and I was paralyzed. I couldn't move forward. And so what my past programming was to get to work, pull out your computer and just start working. Like I just push through. And so I started doing that, and I realized and I recognized it because of the tools that I teach my clients, that I was coming from a place of fear. This was not coming from a place of alignment. I was coming from this place of, I've got to push through, I've got to make this happen.
Yeah.
So I stopped. And instead of continuing down that path that I had always gone down, I switched, and I got into a place of quiet. I tuned into the best version of me. It's a process that I teach all of my clients. And I really tuned into this place of understanding what my purpose was. And then I was able to go on a walk, and I was able to, all these ideas started downloading and all these thoughts started coming. And instead of being paralyzed, I was in flow. Now, I was still working on the conference. I was still in action, moving forward. I was coming from a completely different place, though. I was coming from a place of love and flow and acceptance. It wasn't, I have to do this conference and make it right, because if I'm not good enough. It was coming from a place of, this is my purpose. This is in alignment with who I am meant to be. And so I know that God is going to give me the information that I need to step into my purpose and be in alignment with my best self. Yes. So that's an example of just how it looks like. Yes. And we're all in it, right? We're all going through this.
I love what you say, that, you know, there's no destination really. It's just, it's not that because we are teaching a certain thing that we're going to be perfect and it's going to happen for us every single time. We're still human. And but having the tools, I think, you know, even in listening to that story, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she probably went from really dreading the situation to enjoying it,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And the situation doesn't change. I think that is really the essence of this entire the work that I do. It's not about changing our situation. It's about changing who we're being so that the situation feels different. So we show up differently in the situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that awareness. I think that's really how the big shifts in our lives happen, and it adds to the joy that we can really experience. And it's not like we're not going to experience any grief ever again, but
Right. All right.
but we can, definitely we increase our freedom, right, and our self-confidence.
Exactly. Yes, the peace that we feel and the freedom that we're craving. That's what we're craving, is the peace and the freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you call it aligned action, right? Like once you get clear. And I love that. I like systems also, because those of us who have lived in our heads for many years, even though we are in touch with our hearts, and I think having a roadmap on how to navigate and help ourselves once we don't have Misty in front of us, right? I love that you provide those tools for people, because it's super valuable.
Yeah, yeah. And I do. I have a model that I take my clients through that starts with that, identifying their best self, and then moving into desire, getting into understanding the brick walls that are holding them back, moving into creating a plan that's based on clarity, not fear, and then moving into aligned action from there, and then having the ability to listen to the feedback that comes. There's no failure. There's only feedback. Yes. And then having that be that upward spiral that continues to move us in the direction that we want to go.
Yes, I love it. Oh my goodness. Very, very juicy session today, or episode. So, okay, so how can people actually get a taste of you? I know you're super generous with your time and really helping people from your heart. How can people get a taste of what you do, before they commit?
Yeah, well, and that's what I want. I really feel strongly that people need to feel like there is a relationship of healing that can be present. Healing happens in a relationship. And so I want them to feel that there is a connection there, because if there's no connection, then the healing isn't going to be as effective. Mm. So I offer a 45-minute consultation. It's free. And we sit down. It's my way of giving back. It's my way of getting to know the individual and making sure that she's a fit for the program that I have to offer. And making sure that she feels like she is a fit for the program. So it goes both ways. It's an opportunity just to get to know one another, have a conversation, see what those places are that you're stuck, and then how to move through some of those with greater awareness and understanding. So that you can find on my website, mistyspringer.com. You can message me on Facebook or Instagram. It just begins with a conversation.
Yes, absolutely. I would invite everybody that feels in their heart that they feel lost or out of touch with themselves. I mean, there's nothing more scary, I would think. And I'm speaking for my own experience, to give yourself the love and have the courage to reach out, if you're so called, because it really will change your life. It will change your life. This work, it's, like you said, it's simple, it's deep and simple, and all of it, and all of the above. But it's doable, and the rewards are beautiful. Absolutely.
Totally agree.
I so enjoyed this episode, Misty. I cannot wait for the next one. I think we are adding a lot of value to people, even just having these conversations. It's good to demystify, right, a little bit of the stigma around fear and identity and lack of out of touch with ourselves.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for the conversation, Anna.
My pleasure. See you in the next one.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.